What's up, everybody? I'm Scott,
I'm Jason.
and you're listening to Liquid Kernedge. What's going on, brother?
1:15 today, my friend. 1:15.
I don't think that's not the time we're recording. That's the temperature Jason is actually sitting in today.
Yes.
And I do apologize to our executive producer, Tom, because he has specifically told us numerous times not to bring up the heat. People get it. We're in Arizona in the summertime, but hot's hot, man. And 1:15 is no joke in the first part of July.
Well, last week or the week before last, it was in the 90s, so
yeah,
it's creeping up. But
yeah,
how you doing, my friend?
I am well, my friend. It is a holiday week. This show is being released on our Independence Day, our birthday, our nation's birthday, I should say. A big day for you, a traditional day for you. So for those that are listening in the morning, Jason is currently watching the Thomas Jefferson documentary and followed by the Patriots. Correct?
Well, yeah, except I had to throw off the schedule this week because I am traveling, so I won't have the ability to. I'll be actually in Kingman this weekend for the 4th of July weekend, so I had to watch all my things early. So I've already watched Thomas Jefferson, and now I got to fit in the Patriots between today and in the next few days before the 4th of July. So I will get it done. Usually I've kind of given myself the leeway to watch it at some point around the holiday. So
yeah. No, I hear you. I make it a tradition every year to watch the historically accurate movie Jaws. That's my 4th of July tradition, and I managed to watch that over the weekend, so I should be good for my traditions this year. All I have left is the Nathan's hot dog eating contest the day of, and the 1776 workout at my CrossFit gym. So it'll be a good day.
Wow, yeah. We are very patriotic, aren't we?
Yes. So to all of those that are listening. On the release day, which is the 4th of July, and to any of those after, happy Independence Day. Be safe. Please don't shoot off any fireworks with or without alcohol in your system. Just don't do it. Grow up.
Wow.
There. That's my PSA. Don't shoot off fireworks. Grow up.
All right. I love it.
Goddamn.
I love it. Wow. That's
How are you,
good.
my friend?
I'm good. I'm good. Well, I watched my Thomas Jefferson. This is the actual 23rd viewing of Thomas Jefferson.
You watch this on VHS, correct?
Well, now I can actually watch it on Amazon Prime. So I even have it on Amazon Prime. For those of you who want to watch it is available on Amazon Prime. You would be able to watch it anytime you want and enjoy the same enjoyment that I get out of it in its 23rd year that I've watched it. Now, don't get me wrong. I've seen it more than 23 times. So it's not like I've only watched it once a year. There've been some years where I watched it a couple times when I need a little extra motivation to be, patriotic. Yeah, exactly.
Your life is riveting, Jason.
I know.
I want you to know that right now.
I know. I'm sure that I'll be getting something on the markers from our executive producer about this one, but
that's right. So what does our audience tell us about their 4th of July traditions? Do they have any? Is there a certain food they have to make? Is there a spot they have to go watch the fireworks? Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at Liquid Kernedge. And if you want to send Tom, our EP, a patriotic GIF or joke or meme, what have you, hit him up at liquid_EP on Twitter and Instagram.
Well, that was great. And, you know me, I love Thomas Jefferson. So I've been to Monticello a couple times. Mm-hmm. And when you go to Monticello, the family plot, the burial ground for the Jefferson lineage and family is on the property. Well, if you ever go, I don't know if you've ever been to Monticello before, but if you go there, Thomas Jefferson's burial plot is on the property. And on his headstone, he lists 3 accomplishments of his life that he warranted valuable enough or historical enough to put on his gravestone.
And what were they?
Well, obviously one is the Declaration of Independence.
One kind of a big deal.
That was kind of a big deal for all of us. Then one was the Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom, which basically in Virginia said that no, you have the freedom to pursue any religious belief that you want without having to be persecuted because you're not part of the state-run religion. And then the third thing is he's the father of the University of Virginia.
Wow.
Now, it's important to designate this because he was also the president, a two-term president of the United States, and he didn't warrant that as a high enough accomplishment to put on his tombstone.
I mean, well, given the current state of our world, would you want to put that on your tombstone? Well, I guess maybe back then that was a bigger deal.
Well, I think it's a big deal for anybody. I mean, even if you're not a very good president, it's still a big deal that you accomplished that feat.
Yeah.
But it got me thinking. I got a little bit. I felt a little bit of a loser when I tried to think of 3 things that I would put on my tombstone, and frankly, I couldn't think of anything.
Oh man, God, your 3 biggest accomplishments?
Yeah, like what and with him, I mean, now obviously we're comparing ourselves to, I mean, the friggin' writer of the Declaration of Independence. So obviously, whatever accomplishments you and I ever do in this world, I'm not sure would ever meet up to that standard. But if you had to put, I don't even know if I could put one thing down that I would put. That's to say, this is one of my finest accomplishments as a human on the planet Earth.
You know, I'm right there with. I have some ideas. Like I have to track numbers for what I do for my fundraising job. So I guess one of mine would be raised over $500,000 in charitable funds for our community over a 10-year span.
Oh, that's good.
I mean, it's not bad.
That's good.
I mean, it's all right. I mean,
and you could probably make it more general. Raise countless monies for the underprivileged or for a community at large.
Yeah, that's true. Because if you put a number to it, someone from New York will come and look at it and say that's all you raised, and you probably spit on my grave at that point. So you're right, that's not a good idea. But
hey,
yeah, I'd be more general.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty good one. I guess the first question that always comes to my mind is, are you the type of person that needs to feel like they left a mark on the world in order for your life to mean something?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I'm necessarily that type. I know people will say I have a big ego, and at times I do, but I think when it comes to stuff like that, I don't care who gets the credit as long as the job gets done.
Right.
I would much rather, as long as I did my part to leave this world a better place, at least my part of the world a better place, I'll feel okay.
Yeah.
So that's my general philosophy on it.
Yeah. And I would tend to agree with you. Sometimes I do get a little stressed out or worried that my life will come and go and just fade away into nothingness without ever being remembered or, part of anything.
I think for me, as long as the close friends that I built throughout my life remember me and remember the stuff we did, and we were able to have some adventures that they could pass on to their kids and whatnot, then to me it's a job well done. It's a life worth living. Because I don't have any kids. I don't plan on having any kids. I could probably speak for my brother, the EP, and think he's probably in the same boat at this point. And the only thing we have are the stories from our family to pass on to those that have been close to our family. So maybe someone might feel like they want to take on a little bit of that legacy or try to have those traditions live on. Maybe some random person wants to watch Jaws every 4th of July, like a schmuck.
Well, and when you consider there's 7 billion of us, not everybody, in fact, the vast majority of people are just a number, right? I mean, they're not going to have any sort of significant impact on the world. No. We're probably not going to have any significant impact on the country. No. I don't even think we'd have a significant. It's very likely we're not going to have a significant impact on the state of Arizona.
Ooh, well, let's not get too crazy. I think we'll make at least one of us will make an impact on the state at some point. Whether it's you, whether it's me, whether it's our EP Tom, one of us will make an impact on the state.
Okay, so it could be to that level. It could be to that level, I guess. I mean, you think about that, that kind of impact can be good or bad, right? I mean, hopefully we do a good impact, something that is good for our communities, but I guess it's possible we could do something bad too, right? We're known for bad things.
That's very true, and I think you have to take that into account.
Like, wasn't Kingman known because it was one of the stopping places for Timothy McVeigh?
Yeah, that's one of the bad raps we get.
Right. I mean, so we made history. We're part of history. Ooh,
Yeah, but
not a good one.
we're also a part of the Route 66, and there's a lot more good here than there is bad, and the same goes for Phoenix. The same goes for Flagstaff, Tucson, Albuquerque, Kingman, Kansas. For that fact, it's the legacies that people decide that certain towns or places have is really up to what they take out of them.
Well, and some people leave a legacy that basically they want to be remembered by having a big family, right? I mean, big
Yeah.
family and lots of children and grandchildren, and that is their hope for being remembered in the history books.
Yeah, and really, is that even worth being in the history books? I mean, no offense to those that have a big family. I mean, good for you, but I mean, if you're doing that, that's a sport fucking at that point.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, like back in the we spent the weekend with her parents, and her dad is 89 years old and came from a family of 18 kids, 18 children,
But
and I'm thinking, good Lord, 18 kids. And this weekend we were talking about 18 kids, and he said, yeah, but at that time, my dad thought the more kids he had, the more likely he was going to go to heaven. Like he believed that was his ticket to heaven, was having as many kids as possible. So
there's that thought process, and also back then people had 18 kids because 14 of those kids didn't survive.
Yeah, past the age of 6 or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a numbers game at that point. You have to hope that your strongest and sturdiest survive.
Do you think that it's important for a person to leave a legacy?
I don't know. I think everyone is meant to live a different life. I don't think I don't think everyone should leave a legacy. I don't think everyone needs to leave a legacy. And like you said earlier, not every legacy is a good legacy.
Yeah. Well, you and I both know of people who, and I don't know if you've thought the same way as I have, but I'll just assume that you might have, that there are some people in our communities that, I mean, I don't even know how they have time for themselves with all the volunteer work and donations to organizations to help other people. I'm amazed at where they find the time to actually focus on themselves.
Yeah, I went through a stretch like that a few years back, and I'm kind of in one of those similar spots now where I've got so much going on that it's hard to really kind of sit down and take time for yourself or build any kind of solid, social life there for a while. And just balance, really. It's you just have to take the ebbs and the flows and pull back. And I don't think people set out to do that, to leave a legacy. I think those that do that do some of those things because it's the right thing to do, and it's about things that need to get done in your community.
That reminds me of that Friends episode where Phoebe was trying to do a selfless act that didn't benefit her. And every time she tried to do something selfless, it got turned around that, no, you're selfish for doing that. Oh, and she realized that she was trying to be selfless, and she's like, no, that actually did it. You did that for your own benefit, your own legacy and your own popularity or your own whatever.
And that's very true. I think, a lot of people that do those service clubs or whatever else, well, a very small percentage probably does it because they actually want to give back. Most do it because their jobs require them to be part of the community, so they have to join a service organization. It's networking, quote unquote. So they're basically being forced into doing do-goodery.
Do you think too that I think of the Warren Buffetts and the Bill Gates that basically are giving away their entire fortune. You think they're doing that because they want to leave that kind of legacy, or do you think it's just a practical matter? I've got $100 billion. Like, what am I going to do with $100 billion? I might as well give it to other people. And if I can get some positive, things with that money, then all the better. But, frankly, even if I gave away 99% of it, I'm still a billionaire.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. I think that just comes part of the territory. I think I think when you have that much, when you have $100 billion, fuck yeah, you need to get rid of some of that. And you can do a lot of good. And I think those are two individuals that have recognized that they can do good with what they've been given, so they might as well.
Well, and then I think about it doesn't have to necessarily be money. I was thinking about, a couple weeks ago, we recorded the Natalie episode, and I was thinking about, her parents and what her parents, gave for their daughter, and the sacrifices and the things that they wanted to do for her. And I think that's a legacy right there. I mean, to say that you loved, unconditionally, and went through all that, but you taught so many people how to give a little bit of themselves and do the things to celebrate life. I mean, that's a legacy too.
Yeah, and I think that's a legacy if that lesson sticks. And I think that's the big sticking point. Anyone can do something temporarily and call it their legacy, but I think the real key to a legacy is, if whatever that starts, it sticks. Does that make sense?
I think so. Go ahead and explain, though.
Well, it's like you said. If what happened to that little girl leaves a lasting impression on these people to where they give back and they help every chance they get, then it's a legacy. It's something that has made a direct impression on someone to change their thought patterns and their way of life and how they live their life. That to me is a legacy.
That is a good distinction, that what someone does that affects or changes the status quo of how we think to go in a totally different direction.
Yeah. And that can go both good and bad.
Yeah. But you're right. I mean, when it's good and you've been enlightened to act a different way than you did before, that's pretty powerful. That is pretty powerful.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that people don't realize. They don't fully embrace, and I think it's something that we as a society, especially in today's world, should be more open to.
Well, and I think that we're in that results driven world that people think, well, what impact am I going to have if from just a small place, like if I'm in just my little community? So some people might think, well, what is my impact? I mean, how am I going to start anything? I mean, no one's going to see what I do. No one's going to notice the impact or the effect it has. But it, that's okay too, to maybe do it on a smaller scale. It's still a legacy that you could be proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something to think about,
Yeah, like now that I'm thinking about it, I've been known to make people laugh and smile. I think that's an important thing that I bring to this world, that when I die, that people will hopefully miss about me.
Well, yeah, I would think that in your case, when something actually happens to you down the line, you will be remembered through different jokes, through different just actions. Just you will have a legacy to somebody,
Yeah.
And you would hope that you would pass on certain traits and certain things to your kids, but they might not appreciate you at that point on that level. Does that make sense? But
interesting. Yeah, because we don't know what we do today. We may not see the effects of what we do today for some time in the future, not immediately, like sometime in the future, 5, 10, 15, 50 years.
Exactly. And, but you're more likely to leave an impact on the people you have a direct dealing with every day,
Right.
So someone like we'll take me, for example. You and I talk every week, like clockwork, every week. And since we started doing this show, we've talked more, even though we talked a lot when you were living in the same town. It's a concerted effort for you and I to get together to record this show for our fans and for us. And you have left your mark with me, and I hope that you can say that I've left a mark with you, that we will carry on something we've learned from the other person for the rest of our days.
I think so. I think the other thing I look back to is we're now in season 3. We are now in 111 episodes. I mean, and I look back, so I go back sometimes, just kind of see some of the episodes that we've recorded, and I look back and just smile at some of them that I was like, wow, we were talking about that kind of stuff 2 years ago, and it is still relevant today with what's going on in the world, and what, we like Tracy, per example. Yeah. I mean, that was one of our first 10 episodes was Tracy.
Yeah.
And yet it had an impact 2 years later with Natalie, and it still has an impact, thinking that, that woman is probably gone now. That woman is probably no longer. And for that brief moment in time when you guys were in Williams, you didn't know what the impact would finally ultimately be, but maybe some of the listeners were impacted by the story. And I mean, it's one of our top 10 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
So
that's something to think about.
Yeah.
So like I said, I think it affects everybody differently. I think when you ask someone what 3 things they want in their headstone, that's kind of a loaded question, because that whoever answers that is going to hope that it's 3 particular things that there's no easy way to say it, but I guess it goes back to that Friends thing where it's almost like a humble brag, like, this is what I did when I was alive, in case you forgot. Does it make sense?
Yeah, well, yeah, like, I mean, when I think of Thomas Jefferson, I mean, the Declaration of Independence would be pretty easy to identify because it has impacted every single American.
Yeah.
Since 1776, it is, 243 years now. It's impacted us every single year. So it's hard not to leave that as a legacy, or as one of my accomplishments. And I know it might be bragging, like I wrote that, but in the essence, it was something that changed the way people thought and the way that people, at least in this country, think. So, I don't think there's anything wrong with identifying those kind of events, in the sense of acknowledging that was a transcending moment that I was a part of.
Yeah, and I think a game changer like that, because that's an absolute game changer. I agree. That is something that's like, listen, I wrote the Declaration of Independence. Fuck yeah, you're in history. You are literally in the history books.
Yeah, and I mean, even to this day, every 4th of July, we acknowledge that. We don't know why, a lot of times we're acknowledging just our birthday, but our birthday was written on that document. So I get that. Maybe it's more for him is things that he was proud of being a part of, not things that he accomplished, but things that made him feel better. Like, I accomplished that. I did that.
And I think when you look at some people's headstones, when they say, like father, friend, husband, etc., I think those are 3 legacies and accomplishments that probably resonate with people more on a level that I don't want to say is realistic, but they're remembered by those that love them, not by the masses. And I think that might be another distinction that needs to be clarified here.
Well, Noreen's dad is a very simple man in terms of he's not a complicated guy. Life is what it is, and I just kind of go with it. And he's physically healthy, but he's starting to lose his eyesight. He's starting to lose his hearing. But you can tell he takes great pride in the father that he was to his 4 kids, who then had kids underneath him, and he's very proud of that family tree that he started. So I could imagine that.
Yeah. I mean, that's something you want to be proud of. That is something to definitely be proud of. And I'm gonna make it easy on someone for me someday when I'm dead. Just go ahead and cremate me, and then do whatever you want to do with the ashes. After you do a weekend at Bernie's with me.
yeah, we're doing one of those weekend at Bernie's, and I'm sure that we'll find you some hot bimbo to. Oh my God, Scott was the best. He was. Oh no.
One more for the ride.
One more for the ride. That's right. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, we'll just have to make sure we keep doing things that we're proud of, and never have to. Like, I don't feel bad for people that get stuck in these moral quandaries, but like Lori Loughlin. I don't care what you did. I don't care what acting career you had or how impactful you were, donated. You will always be known as the mom who bought their kids' way into college.
That didn't even want to go. That's the hardest part.
So, I think we need to be cognizant of, we want to put things on that we're proud of, but we also don't want to damage those legacies by doing stupid things that we're not proud of. So
I agree completely. And I think that's something that people should be vigilant in thinking about when they're doing things that could make or break how people remember them. Like, is this something I want to be remembered for? And that's definitely something that I know I do. And anything I plan in the community, or I take part in the community, is I have to sit and think, do I want to be associated with this? Do I want people to potentially remember me for doing this? And that, before I started doing that, I'd known for the biggest drag contest in town, and other various things. But in everything I've done, I've raised some serious cash for some seriously good programs. So it's good with the bad,
Yeah, well, and I think that that's probably a different even topic of, we talked about it before, is doing something wrong that comes with a good outcome make it okay?
Yeah, and I guess that's also, again, it's not necessarily wrong. It's just a different line of thinking per se.
Yeah, like it's not a traditional line of thinking, but then again, how many great things are done by people who are willing to do what other people aren't willing to do?
That's true.
That's true. And I look at any of the people that are super famous, and when people start ragging on them, and like Ariana Grande, I gotta be honest, I don't like listening to her songs all the time, but she is willing to do what most of us are not willing to do, and market herself. And she's been very successful financially. I don't know if she, would put that as one of her legacies, but she's been successful doing the little things that most of us wouldn't be willing to do. And maybe that's where greatness comes into play, is that there are some people that are willing to do those little things that the rest of us aren't.
That's also very true.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know. It's a fine line. And I guess a legacy is defined differently by different people in different scenarios, and you just have to hope that when you remembered for the right reasons and not the wrong reasons.
Well, the good thing is, Scott, I agree with you. The podcast has been one of those events for me that, and you and I both agree, there have been some weeks where it's like, oh, I just do not want to do this week. I've got so many other things on my plate. And yet once we did it, it was like, oh, see, that wasn't bad. We got through it. And that's something I've been very proud of, especially doing with a good friend, and enjoying the closeness that has grown from, these talks every week, and sharing those talks with people that are out there. Some of them totally disagree with us, but some of them say, man, they got me thinking about something. So,
and the upside is no one has gone on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, all at Liquid Kernedge, and told us to fuck off yet. So that's a huge bonus.
I think the executive producer has gotten close a couple times.
Yeah. Well, he's
gotten
close.
Times. He's throat punched me a couple times.
Yeah, he's in a league all of his own, so it's a little bit different scenario with him. But he's also making his mark on this show and his legacy with those that listen. So we do appreciate that, and you can thank him for that at liquid_EP on Twitter and Instagram.
I think he's got to get a good plug in.
Well, as we wrap up the show, I do have to get our second plug of the show in, and I do wish everyone a happy and safe 4th of July, and to kind of tie up our conversation, if you are doing stuff in the community in this world, you try to make it a better place or a worse place for some random reason, think to yourself, is what I'm doing something I want to be remembered for? And if that is not something you want to be remembered for, you should not be doing that thing.
Well said. I think the only plug that I'll add to that is, we talk about the 4th of July, and it's a great holiday, but we also need to remember, especially in times like these, that is the one day that celebrates that we are one of the few nations on earth that has about as free a people as you can possibly get. Nothing is censoring us from being on this podcast. Nothing censoring you from owning a gun and doing all the things that you want to do in this life. So take a special moment to just appreciate all the things we do have, because even when times get tough and we think that things are going to shit, we still got that. There's a lot of places in this planet that don't have that. So
that is very true. So with that, please also, if you have pets that are afraid of fireworks, do us a favor and keep them inside, keep them safe, wrap them in a blanket or something. A lot of pets get out on the 4th of July because of all the loud noises, and it's a very scary time for both those pets and those owners. So please be cognizant.
Sounds good, man.
All right, Jason, go ahead and take us home.
All right. Hey, happy anniversary. Happy Independence Day, everybody. That was Scott. I am Jason. And as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some Liquid Kernedge.